Hello and welcome to I Know That Voice, the podcast about voice actors and voice acting. I'm Keith Wickham. I'm a voice actor, have been for 30 years. You'll know me best probably as Sir Topham Hatt from Thomas and Friends, as well as Gordon, Henry, Edward and various other engines in the show.
Can you get on with it, Keith?
I'm also Professor Inkling and Shellington in the Octonauts, and I was a koala brother. I was Cornel and Watch My Chops. I was in 64 Zoo Lane. I was also Change Daily in The Secret Show.
Show isn't about you.
I thought it'd be nice to talk to my fellow voice artists about their profession. These are people whose voices you will know, but who could still go to the supermarket without being mobbed. Today's guest is a Norwegian-American, and he's best known for Porter and Jack in the US dub of Thomas and Friends, and he's also played Virgil and Gordon Tracey in the 2015 reboot of Thunderbirds Are Go. He's also in the US version of Bob the Builder, and he also has played Luke Skywalker in Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. So I'm talking today to Virgil and Gordon and Luke Skywalker. Ladies and gentlemen, David Menkin.
I think we've got enough there.
Oh, well, David Menkin, who you are unusually a Norwegian-American.
Yes.
Yes, which isn't actually quite common, is it?
I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot of Norwegians and Scandinavians who emigrated and sort of set up farming in the Midwest. But no, my mother's Norwegian, my father's from New Jersey, and then because of my dad's job, we moved around the world. So I've lived in Africa, in Benin. I've lived in New York. I have lived in Norway, but most of my life has actually been spent in the UK. So I went to an American school in Surrey, and then went back to the States, studied, and then ran out of money and came back here.
Of course. Yeah, well, like everybody does.
Yeah.
So was this study, are you a natural actor? Was it something you wanted to do, or were you studying something else?
Yeah, I was desperate. I was desperate to be an actor. But my dad really pushed a liberal arts education because he was very worried that I wouldn't be able to succeed. He made it very clear that, he didn't think that I was talented enough to make it. So it's amazing what a drive to prove your parents wrong will do.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah. It's either that or they just don't care.
Yeah.
And then you're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so I went to an American school in Surrey. So I was brought up in this weird mix of being in the States during the day, and then I'd come home and watch British television. So I know a lot of the references.
Yeah, which is helpful.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It really was. When I was sort of like a mid to late teen, I watched The Word on a Friday night and all that kind of stuff, and learned about pub culture, and then went to the States, and of course everybody was just getting blindingly drunk as soon as they got their fake IDs. And I was just like, what is wrong with all these people?
And you haven't lost your accent?
No, I was actually pushed to sort of cultivate it. So I came back and I did a postgraduate diploma at Mountain View.
Yes.
One of the drama schools here.
Yeah.
And a teacher of mine just said, you will never belong. You're never going to be one of us. So therefore, you have to cultivate the fact that you are different. And she said that fine, you can go for a neutral British accent if you want, but if you're up against someone from a certain part of the UK, because British people are very proprietary about their accents.
Yep, this is true.
So made it very clear that I should really push being a Scandinavian and being an American. And
it's a very good move.
It was.
Yeah.
The few times that I've changed agents, in the beginning, they start by putting me up for British things. And I just go, why? And they go, well, we put British people up for American roles. And I go, yeah, do you know how much it pisses me off to hear terrible American accents? I had to give lessons. I had to go on set for the Captain America movie to give an Austrian man and a British man language lessons and pronunciation help because they were expected to speak Norwegian.
Oh, God.
And they changed the script the night before. So all the Marvel stuff with like everything going through 17 different hoops of stuff like that. And they were just like, oh, can you just translate this really quickly? And so I was under camera B yelling their lines to them.
Wow.
Turns up in the news in Norway and people are laughing about the terrible Norwegian. Other people don't
Yeah.
care, but
This
yeah.
is the thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
How much do people care?
But the thing
Yeah.
that we're noticing, I don't know if you can see this now, but the industry is looking for authenticity now.
Yes, that's a lot more now. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I used to do everything.
Yeah.
You'd throw anything at you.
Absolutely. I used to be in rooms full of white guys doing patois.
Yeah.
And I'd sit there and I'd go, "Oh my God, why are you," and so now I sit in rooms with people from the places that their characters are from, for the most part.
Yes. And I mean, I still do accents, but British accents.
Yeah.
That's what am allowed to do now, and possibly Russian and stuff, anything like that. But,
any country that we have an
European-
issue with, we get
Yeah,
to do.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. But anything outside of that,
Yeah.
yes, quite rightly, it's the real thing. It's
Yeah.
the real deal. But your Scandinavian thing is very unusual.
It's been an interesting thing. It has kind of been the thing that opened the doors for me. So
Yes.
I left drama school and was working for £3.75 an hour at a library, and then I did an audition with this girl, and she was Danish, and she said, "Oh, they're looking for a freelance Norwegian to be a continuity announcer for a Norwegian TV station." And I went,
Okay.
"Yeah, but we're in the UK." And they went, "Yeah, it's because they broadcast from the UK in order to be able to show more ads per hour." So I went in for a meeting. I was then dumped in at the deep end and was running a channel by myself after 3 days of
Wow.
training, and was pretty shit. I
Why
won't
wouldn't you
lie.
be?
I was terrible. I didn't quite know what to do with my voice. I didn't know. There was no such thing as webinars and YouTube videos
Yeah.
telling you how to do things. I would go home and I would record the announcer speaking on Channel 4 and on BBC Two and figuring out what they did in order to make things work. And it was so useful. I learned how to be a voiceover artist.
From doing
From
that.
and then from there I went, well, maybe I should do a reel, and I picked up Contacts, which is this book that's
Oh,
the
yes.
Spotlight used to have, and just went through voice agents and would call them up and go, "Hi, I'm an American," and they all said no, except for one agency that was Noel Gay back in the day. And they went, yeah. And I went, "Can I drop it off? Can I come and meet you?" Yeah. And what I didn't know was that their voice agent had left the day before and taken quite a few clients with them. They needed an American. I came in, I dropped off my reel, and then the next day I got a job advertising the Ministry of Sound's California sessions.
It's a perfect story. Really?
But that's how
Isn't it?
how it used to be.
It's exactly how it used to be. Exactly
Because
how
there
I
were
did it,
no
exactly
rules.
Yeah. Well, there were sort of, but they were weird rules.
Yeah.
They were sort of more amorphous.
And now a lot of my time is spent talking to people who want to get into our industry and telling them sort of, well, this is what's expected, but do you sound like everybody else? Well, then I suggest you don't go into this. You know, what is it that makes you different to everybody else? If they say the right types of things about their background, their ethnicity, the way they grew up, or I can hear something that's very different about their voice, then I go, absolutely go into it.
Yes.
And then there's all those who, if you're a posh British person, a man trying to get into this industry now, I go, well, every agency has you, and it's most likely a famous version of you.
Yeah, that's true.
But that shouldn't stop you.
There's no harm in trying.
Oh my God, that's what I say. Don't let me stop you. I'm just here to tell you that they're not going to welcome you with open arms.
No. It's realistically, it's overcrowded. Always has been, really.
Always
overcrowded. So yes, and then let's carry on with you.
Yeah.
You have the agent.
Yes.
You're working.
Yeah.
And is this in between doing film, theatre, television, or are you just doing voiceovers?
So I trained in musical theatre. I didn't quite fit into sort of the very, very commercial musical theatre because I got to do voiceover jobs that paid pretty well. especially in comparison to my theater work. I ended up being able to do really interesting projects. So I worked at places like the Bridewell Theater and did Sondheim musicals and stuff like that. I was doing quite well in musicals, but I started falling out of love with it. I moved to Calypso Voices, and they started pushing me in towards animation. But I also had an opportunity to help out a casting director for a game. And I was just bringing people into the room. And at the end of the day, she just went, "Do you want to just go in and try? Go on, just go in. No pressure." And I got it.
Yeah.
So in 2008, I got my first game. And then games started taking over, and I was on Bob the Builder, and then I got on Thomas and Friends, and that kind of stuff. And I really, really enjoyed that. In 2012, 2013, I did a terrible jukebox musical. The people in it were not very nice, and it killed my love for theater, stone dead. But at the same time, I got an audition for a film called Zero Dark 30, and I got it. Because of that, I was able to suddenly call myself a film and TV actor. So I was doing screen and voice. I love both, but what's great about voice is that I can be anyone because you don't see my face. And when I'm on screen, I usually play, the assassin, the CIA guy, the FBI guy, the asshole.
Which when you meet you don't look like that. But is that that's the way the camera takes it?
I guess so. Or I'm the Scandinavian, the slightly weird, kooky Scandinavian, and they want me to talk like this, and I will happily do that. But I love it. I wish that I could fall back in love with theater. I did just one thing over COVID. A friend of mine was in a show, and she called me up and she went, that play that you did the read-through of, could you come and do the last week of it? Because my co-star is sick with COVID. So I jumped in with the book and had a great time because I forgot about the camaraderie. Yes. And that's one thing we don't usually have as voice actors and voiceover artists. We don't really get to be in a room with a lot of other people for the most part.
Not for a long time.
Yeah.
We do. I mean, the Octonauts and a few others were group recordings.
Yes.
But that's a day.
Yep.
2 days at most.
Yeah.
So it's not the theatre thing of being in a group for weeks and months.
Yeah.
And having that. But there is a camaraderie. It's just it's more disparate, isn't it? It's kind of you're concentrated and then you disappear.
Exactly. As actors, we are the weird, the traveling band who sit around the campfire at the end of the day and tell stories and understand each other. And that's why, for the most part, even though we try not to, if we're not doing it, we're watching somebody we know in it, and we're talking to our friends about it. And a lot of times we then also end up falling into romantic entanglements with the same people. It's our jobs and it's our lives and it's our hobbies. I used to say, I'm so lucky, and I'm not allowed to say that anymore. I am so talented and lucky that I get to stay in this. I am one of those people who I get excited on behalf of other people when they get work. I find that inviting new people into our arena makes me aware of whether I'm hungry anymore. So I love working with new people, talented people, and apparently that sets me apart because there's a lot of sort of there are a lot of people who sort of like to stake their claim on certain jobs. I want to work with new people, and I want to also keep hold of the bonds with people that I've worked with for years. I just don't think I'm built for sort of professional jealousy in the same way as a lot of other people. I work with really, really talented people who, in relation to sort of, how stars are paid, are woefully underpaid and are doing 7-8 different characters while somebody swans in and they've been driven to the studio and they have a slushy S, but their character doesn't have a slushy S, stuff like that. Anyway.
Well, that's good. I mean, having a level head, being grounded. Does this come from your background?
I think that being a third culture kid, being somebody who grew up outside his own culture and doesn't really have one, I can play with anyone. as a teenager, I sort of never really belonged anywhere, but I could visit with everyone.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that I've grown into even more. And my friends laugh at me because they say that I have more friends than anyone. But I have a desperate need to be liked. And which I'm getting better at that. But it takes a lot for me not to like people. I just like hanging out with people and working with them and finding out what makes them tick.
Do you direct as well?
I don't mean to, but I end up in situations where kind of it ends up doing it. I've done some ADR or loop group work where I've ended up having to direct people in the room. But to tell you the truth, I find that there are people out there that are so good at this and have a capacity for keeping the entire story in their head. Some performance directors that I've worked with are able to have between 18 and 80 hours of content in their heads.
Yeah.
I don't have the capacity in my brain to make people do that. I have a capacity to make people feel something. So for the most part, I like to act.
And the game stuff has become quite big for you, hasn't it? The Luke Skywalker thing.
Yeah.
Which has been amazing, hasn't it?
It's been utterly amazing. For somebody whose mom didn't let him play video games because she thought it would rot my brain. So I'd have to go to my friends' houses and play them. You know, the first game that I did, the one where I helped out the casting director, I was the player character in that. And that was my first job. And from there, I started working in games, and I had no ego about it. I would play a lead character one day, a villain the other, and then I'd play, Sword Carrier 3.
I love it about those games. I love doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you sort of figure out what's expected of you and what is going on in the game dynamics, you then understand what is expected of you as an actor. And then bit by bit, because of that, I guess, I have had the opportunity to play some really interesting roles. Gosh, I don't want to read off my CV, but getting to be in a huge fantasy game like Final Fantasy. I'm in 2 of them, and 14 and 16. I play this ridiculous villain in Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
So you're even playing a villain when you're not seen?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I went from aging juvenile lead, I guess, for a while, to then being the villain. And I gotta say, the villains are much more interesting.
Oh, they're so much more fun, aren't they? So much more fun.
It's great.
I think every actor alive would say
exactly.
That. There's the humor in villains.
Yes. When I talk to people about the differences between sort of animation and games, this is very broad strokes, by the way, but a villain in an animation knows that they are the villain, relishes in the fact that they are the villain. Yeah. In a game, there can be playable content up to 180 hours, and then if it's an open world game, even longer. The fact that you might not know that the villain is the villain until the very last moment, and then you as an actor get to play that kind of stuff. It's so much fun.
And it must have been fun doing Thunderbirds, because, I grew up with Thunderbirds, and you must have seen it before.
Yeah. So I knew that it existed. So I was in the UK for a little bit. So I left the UK to go and study in the States in 96. But Thunderbirds, the original series, had a resurgence in the 90s. I respected it, but I was a little bit freaked out by it, won't lie. And then, of course, it became such a big part of British culture for the second time. And then when I was brought in to audition for it, one of our agents said very kindly, "Now don't mess this up." So of course I listened to the original stuff, and then I was sent through the gubbins, as they call it, the information about the characters, and I was like, okay. I was up for Virgil originally. I was like, well, he's the mom of the group. Their dad is gone, their mom. But here's someone who has to look out for the emotional core of the family. I was like, I know how to do that. So I channeled that. And when we came to production, they said, would you mind reading for Gordon as well? That was great because I had the chance to bounce off Rasmus Hardiker. My God. Human jukebox what he did was sort of the banter that happened in the studio, because we had Dave Peacock directing us, and it just happened, and then suddenly there I was playing two of the Tracey brothers in in the show, and I'm sort of part of something that is bigger than me, and I'm part of something that is going to survive beyond me. And I know that you feel that with Octonauts. It's
and Thomas.
Oh my God, yes. I am still sent messages regarding Thomas all the time.
Yep.
When I tell people what I've done, it's Bob the Builder that makes people go crazy. But then when you go to conventions, it's Thunderbirds. It's always Thunderbirds.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
you do go to conventions. I've never done that.
I go to conventions that are mainly for games. But when they find out what I've done, then they lose it. And there's something quite amazing about Thomas and Friends and the autistic community. And that is something that I very much respect. I've learned a lot as to why they felt that Thomas and Friends worked for them. Therefore, I will always respond. I will get, I'll get a 7 or 8 page letter sometimes, and I'll sign something and send it back. But I will read it. They're the ones who will be fans until the day they or I die. So honor them. Yeah.
I think those conventions, and every now and then I went to a premiere of Thomas.
Yeah.
They're the only times you actually come into contact with the audience, because when you're doing a job like this, it's not theatre, there's not an audience.
Yep.
And you can very easily get you're in this room or in a studio. That's it, you go home. And then you don't really know what impact you're having until you come across it face to face.
That's really interesting. I have to tell a story about Octonauts, actually, because my best friend, her 3 nephews, they couldn't really give a shit about what I was up to, but they always asked if I was going to be in Octonauts. They were the first generation that had access to all of the episodes on demand. Okay. So they would come home from school and they would say, what do you want to do? I want to watch Octonauts. And they'd get to watch it. And then we came to Christmas one year. And my friend called me and she said, would you mind please getting the old VHS recorder out and recording something at Christmas? Because there's a new episode of Octonauts and it's coming at Christmas. And they don't understand why they can't see it now. They don't understand why it's not available to them. So we have explained to them that Christmas is going to happen and then we're going to watch Octonauts. And we're all so worried because we haven't recorded anything in years. It was on par with Santa coming.
Yes, yes. One question I was going to ask you, did your musical training, your singing, has that helped you?
Yes.
In the voice work?
Yes, it has. I find that people who have musical ability, they understand how to communicate better because there is so much tonality in the way we speak. The people who you just go, they're just so easy to listen to. Public speakers. The stuff they do to keep your ear engaged is fully musical, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
And I find it fascinating, and I use it, and I try to tell people about it when I'm working with them on getting better. So a mix of my musical background, plus also doing continuity on a commercial TV station where they said, oh, you have 20 seconds. Oh, actually, you only have 5 seconds. Well, how do I boil it down? How do I make people stay on this channel? The mix of those two helped me become a voice actor and a better voiceover artist as well.
Oh, great. And you've actually been asked to sing, presumably, at some
Yeah, I've done jingles. I've done great jingles. I've done terrible jingles. I have one that still is it's Fiber One is airing somewhere around the world, and I recorded it in 2013. And it was a bad cover of Bonnie Tyler's "Total Eclipse of the Heart," and stuff like that. It's so much fun that I get to use that training because I do so much screaming in games that I can't really do sort of musical theater legit singing anymore.
Yeah, it's a different thing, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
For me, for example, I'm musical. I do a lot of accents and characters and stuff like that. I can't mimic a person.
Right.
But what I can do is I can listen to someone who has picked up the hooks of how to impersonate them, and I can copy that.
Right. You need that ear. You need the second ear.
I need,
Yes.
So I'm once removed,
Okay.
and that works for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's we all find the way, don't we, to make it work, to make.
But I have been asked over the years, how can you train somebody to impersonate somebody? You can't. I've never been able to tell anybody how to do that.
Yeah.
You either can hear it or you can't, and you can hear how they're using their mouth innately. It's a very odd skill.
And the thing for me is that I suck at stuff when I try to do stuff to sound good. But if I try to give it intention, if I try to give it a character, if I try to communicate with someone, then it happens.
Yes.
And I think that's why I hate audiobooks, because it's just me in a room talking to myself, and I keep on having to sort of imagine the person sitting and listening for it to happen.
Yes. And this is self-edited ones. This is ones without a producer in a studio.
Oh no, it's with a producer in a studio.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's I find it such hard work, but yeah. So for me, it's just all about intention. That's the only way things work for me. And then there's others who just go, "Oh yeah, you want that? I'll give you that."
Yeah. Session singers in a way.
My God, yeah, they're amazing.
Okay. Now I want to get on to other stuff about the business and your attitude to what's happening, because this is this is the thing that's on everybody's minds.
Man.
Part of the reason for doing this whole thing at all is not only to get to know people who are well known. It's just what is your attitude? What are you scared of it? Are you using it? AI I'm talking about and all that stuff.
Okay. So to give you a little bit of background, I have been working for the past few years specifically trying to get guidelines in place, both when it comes to the video games industry, because it's completely unregulated, and also when it comes to AI, especially when it comes to our industry.
Mm-hmm.
I started out, I was quite worried and quite scared of it, because headlines are meant to make you scared, so you'll keep reading. But the more I learned, the more I've understood that, for example, AI is an amazing tool for humanity. It's going to save lives when it comes to scans, prevention of disease in the right hands. I see that it's going to help people, trying not to use ableist terms here, but people who maybe can't speak, they used to be able to speak, can't speak anymore. I find it amazing that what you can do is you can find some old recordings of someone, and you are able to slot that into a piece of software, and when you speak to them and they're maybe typing something out, you hear their voice. So it's them talking. Stuff like that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. But then I see that there are people out there who are very interested in making sure that their generative AI has been built to be as good as possible, but they've not really thought about any of the ethical issues. So what they've done is they've scraped a lot of information. A lot of it, most of it actually, is copyrighted material. And because of that, we can't be sure that what they've used to teach these algorithms is correct or not. We found out a very short time ago, instead of testing the AI in what's called an air-gapped system, where it doesn't actually access the internet, they decided to just do the experiment with people. And they found out that, actually, since the internet is relatively young, and the information that populated the internet was also written by mostly men from a certain area, it inadvertently became racist. and extremely sexist. So, they had to jump in and deal with the misogyny and the racism and all that kind of stuff. But while all this was happening, there were no guidelines. There were no restrictions. Somebody from IBM was saying, we didn't get driver's licenses and we didn't get seatbelts until several hundred people had died because of cars.
This is true. And I was about to say, legislation is always slow to keep up.
Absolutely.
With developments. It always has been.
Yes. He was insinuating that what we need to do is be as open a market as possible and then put guidelines in place. But what people are saying now is that we've learned from people dying because of cars and so on. We learned that what you can do is you can put quite strict guidelines in place. And then when humanity asks and says, this is too restrictive, then things can be opened up bit by bit. It's the wrong way around because the people who are making these AI systems are huge. They're rich. They're powerful. Yeah. And we've seen that with what's going on with the British government at the moment when it comes to AI. What I find is that AI is a fantastic tool, but it needs to be regulated, just like any other tool.
Are you hopeful?
I wouldn't say that. There was an interesting interview a few weeks ago. The person said he was sort of a bit of an expert on AI, and he said, when we look back at the big events in history, so the Industrial Revolution, things like that, it's never as bad as people say, but it's never as good as people say.
Yes.
What we have at the moment is generative AI that is being used to replace art. And by art, I mean everything from pieces of graphic art or paintings to singing to music to voiceovers. And what's happened is that right now, it's not ready to go because if you go in and you do it, there's an uncanny valley to it. So if you have the same word said several times, you will have it said with the same intonation. You'll hear that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And in order to change that, you need an editor to come in and work for hours upon hours to fix that. It's going to get better. And it happens so fast. But what we have guidelines in place that make sure that the data that they're using to train this is ethically sourced. I am working with a company called Ethovox. It's a company run by actors and by sound engineers and so on. And they want to make sure that if you want to work with actors and you want to use their voices, their AI avatars, then you have to follow certain guidelines. So, for example, you don't get the software with all of the work that I've done. You get to go in and say, this is what we would like you to do. This is how we would like to use it. And when we're done with the project, the software using your voice will get nuked. It no longer exists. Stuff like that I find very interesting.
Okay.
And their Ethovox has a contract now with Saga. I did it as a Norwegian voice, and it's very, very good. But you then hear about things like 11 Labs, which is the big company that's being used by a lot of audiobook companies and so on like that. From the information that I have gleaned, it is very difficult to get 11 Labs to let people know how they train their systems. We know that YouTube videos are used. We know that audiobooks are used. Certain audiobook companies have started working with companies like 11 Labs. And you go, did they let them have their entire back catalog? Things like that. Yeah. I find all of that very problematic. Yeah. And that's why I just want some guardrails, some guidelines in place. Because I do think that our industry is going to change. But at the same time, I still feel that there's a place for the human. And I want to make sure that if you're using AI, then I don't want that to be because humans were exploited. And that's what I'm fighting for.
And also because everything is being aimed at humans.
Yes.
In the end. Surely. Yes.
Exactly.
Who is the audience?
Who is the audience? And so, right now, everything that you get when you use generative AI is a math problem that then gets turned into audio. It's doing mathematical models of like, what is the way that humans speak? you need to then make the system understand, well, they're sad because their parent died. How do you get a mathematical algorithm to understand what that means?
AI does not have human experience, and it doesn't have human feelings.
And it's not intelligent.
In
3 years' time, we may have superintelligence. We may have a synthetic mind that's able to do stuff. But for the time being, it's not what people say it is and what these companies are saying it is. All I want is, if you use my work, I want to give consent. I want to be able to make sure that you are not using it to have me say things that I wouldn't say as a human being. So I want a level of control over it.
Yes.
And I also just want to be able to be paid.
Yes.
So therefore, I want compensation.
All of this is fair enough. You're not saying let's stymie AI. You're saying
absolutely.
Yeah.
I want AI to make our lives easier.
Yeah.
I don't want it to necessarily put people out of work because they offer a cheaper option. If it's a better option, then hey, go for it. And this is going to affect everybody.
Yes,
it is. And a lot of people are going to be put out of work, not just in our industry. The world order is going to shift because of this. This is a new revolution in the way we live our lives. I'm very interested in it. I try to learn as much as possible about it. But every 3 months that go by, I'm less of an expert about it because I did so much research on it 2-3 years ago. And I just cannot keep up.
Bill Gates has said the only people safe from AI are going to be coders and people who run power stations.
So this was a joke that I made. Somebody asked me what I wanted for my birthday. And I said, actually, I would like a course on how to service HVAC systems.
Right.
Because if it doesn't work out for me as an actor and a voice actor, then I know that I can at least make sure that the air conditioning systems for the
for the servers,
for the server rooms is running. And I did get a book.
It's a good move. Well, thank you for that.
I mean, I did feel like I rambled a little bit, but
no, it's fine because the thing is, everyone's giving slightly different answers, and they're all going down different roads, and they're all thinking in different ways, and they're all either doing something or not doing something about it. And a few people are like you are actually actively doing something, getting involved. Other people are putting their head in the sand. Other people are shrugging their shoulders.
Absolutely.
But it is interesting, and yours was a very comprehensive answer.
Yeah.
So it's
But I will say this: so I am very disappointed in what's happening with the government and how they are approaching AI. So to help your viewers understand just one thing is that they are pushing for any work that anybody creative does. They will have to go into the systems of the company that they worked for and subsequently any company that hires the services of that company. And we will have to go and find a page where we can opt out of having our work used for AI. That's ridiculous. It should be opt-in.
Yes.
It should be. And because there are enough people that will opt in, but they are saying that the UK will be an AI desert. Because also they know that all the companies that have created these systems and these algorithms, they have already done it without asking for permission.
Yeah, and opting out like that, as you say, is technically very difficult.
For anyone.
For anyone, yeah.
The company that figures out how to do an opt-out system that will go out to everyone, they're the ones that I'll invest in. And it's gonna get messy. It just is, and there'll be lawsuits, and some of them will be sexy, but most of them will be really boring.
That's the trouble, isn't it? It's not easy to sell people this stuff.
Nope.
These ideas. It's ridiculously complicated. It's been fantastic talking to you, David, today, or should I say Luke or Virgil. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Do you know what? It's been lovely chatting to a peer, because a lot of times, well, most of the time, I speak to people who don't know what we do, who are fans or journalists and stuff like that. So this has been great, and getting to talk about myself, nothing wrong with that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello from Tracey Island. You've been listening to I Know That Voice, produced and presented by Keith Wickham. Today's guest was me, David Menkin. Thank you for listening, and FAB.